Okay, so now today we're going to be converting equations that are in standard form into slope-intercept form. So standard form looks like this. It's ax plus by equals c. Because standard form does not give us the slope, we need to convert our standard form into slope-intercept form. So we want our equations to look like this. Y equals mx plus b. All right, so in order to do that, we need to move stuff around in our equation to solve for y, or isolate the y variable. So that's basically what we're going to do. We're going to solve for y. So in order to do that, we have to get the y, this y by itself. So you notice that the y is being added to the x. So to undo that operation, we're going to subtract x from both sides of the equation. Now these are going to go away, and our y is by itself. But remember, we want this in the form y equals mx plus b. So we're going to put negative x, which is the same as negative 1x, plus 6. So then if we identify our slope in this equation, our slope will be negative 1, and our y-intercept will be 6. All right, now let's do number 8. So this one's actually a two-step equation. So we have to get this y by itself. So you notice that the 2 is being multiplied by the y, but the 5x is also being added to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to undo or subtract 5x from both sides. These cancel. We end up with 2y equals, now remember we want our x term to be first. So I'm going to write that term first. Negative 5x minus 2. Now I'm going to divide. Now to get this y by itself, I'm going to divide by 2. And then I have to make sure I divide everything else on the other side by 2. So my y will be equal to negative 5/2 x. Negative 2 divided by 2 would be minus 1. So you can notice we can identify our slope, which is 5/2, and our y-intercept is negative 1. All right, let's do one more. So this is another two-step equation. So we need to get this y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Look, make sure you bring down that negative for y equals negative 2x plus 28. Now I'm going to divide everything by negative 4. So look, this cancels. Now we have to simplify this right here because we have negative 2 over negative 4. So I'm going to simplify that to positive 1/2. And then if I do positive 28 divided by negative 4, I get negative 7. So my slope here is 1/2, and my y-intercept is negative 7. Okay, so now I want you to pause the video and try the next 3 problems, 10, 11, and 12. And I want you to go over to the Google slide and insert your answers into the Google slide before you move on to the next problems. Okay, so this is number 13. Now, we want to graph this line, but in order to graph this line, we have to have our equation in slope-intercept form, right? Remember, y equals mx plus b. So we need the m and the b. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract x from both sides. I'll have negative 2y equals, now remember we want the x term to be first because we want it to be in slope-intercept form. Now I'm going to divide everything by negative 2. So this gives me y equals, so this will simplify. This is actually a 1 here. So if we do negative 1 over negative 2, that gives us positive 1/2 x. And then 8 divided by negative 2 will give us negative 4. Okay, so now we need to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So my slope is 1/2. My y-intercept is negative 4. All right, we're always going to start here. Start at the y-intercept. Now remember, this is our y-axis right here, this one that's going straight up and down. So the y-intercept is where that line's going to hit the y-axis. So negative 4 will be here. You know what, let me do a different color. All right, so negative 4 is there. Now to find the next point, we're going to use our slope. Now remember, our slope is our rise over our run. So if we rise and run from that point, that y-intercept, we're going to find another point. So watch. I'm going to rise 1 and run 2. Rise 1, run 2. See how I'm doing that? So then my next point will be here. I can actually find another point if I rise 1 and run 2. So my next point will be here. So then you just draw a nice straight line through those 2 points, or 3 points, or 4 points, however many points you want to make. Okay, so now I want you to go and try number 14 on your own. I want you to write the equation in slope-intercept form, and then I want you to identify the slope and the y-intercept, and then using the line tool in Google Slides, I want you to graph the line. Okay, so let's talk about vertical and horizontal lines. So a vertical line is written in the form x equals a, where a represents the x-intercept. So just think about this. A is where the line is crossing the x-axis. Okay, so if we look here, the line is crossing the x-axis at negative 1. So the equation of this line would be x equals negative 1. And then if we remember from doing slope before, the slope of a vertical line is undefined. All right, now this horizontal line is written in the form y equals a, where a represents the line's y-intercept. So if we look here, the line is hitting the y-axis at 3. So the equation of this line is going to be y equals 3. And then the slope will always be 0 for a horizontal line. Okay, so let's try a couple of these. So we're going to graph this line. So y equals 4. So we have an x-axis and a y-axis. So I want you to put a point, go to the y-axis, put a point on 4, and then that line is going to go straight through that y-axis to make a horizontal line. Okay, now for the next one, we have x is equal to -2. So we have x-axis, y-axis. You go to the x-axis because it's x equals -2. You draw a point on that x-axis, and this is going to be a vertical line going straight up and down. All right, now this next one's a little bit tricky, but we can do it. We have y is equal to 0. So this is our y-axis. This is our x-axis. Y is equal to 0. So we're going to go to the y-axis, and now it's going through the y-axis to make a horizontal line. So you have to remember, if it's y equals a number, it's going to be a horizontal line. And if it's x equals a number, it's going to be a vertical line, going through whichever axes it is.